This is the Cash Perspective. Today we talking sundown towns, Illinois edition. Let's get to it. Now, a sundown town was a town that had laws on the books, officially or unofficially, that stated that no one that was non-white was allowed outside within their city limits after dusk, or nighttime for those of you who don't know what dusk is. Number one on the list, Oak Park, Illinois. Kind of threw me off. I didn't realize it was a sundown town in that close proximity to the crib. It's Chicago adjacent, right? So you could be on this side of the street and be in Oak Park, and then cross the street and then you in Chicago. So it's right there. It started like in the 1860s, where it gained that reputation, and that reputation stuck with it well into the 1970s. Number two, Benton, Illinois. Benton, Illinois is like 300 miles south of Chicago. Benton had a huge Ku Klux Klan rally in the late 90s, right? And even more recent than that, some residents of Benton threw shit and objects and hurled racial slurs at the Carbondale High School basketball team, which is, you know, if you know anything about Carbondale, you know it's a lot of black folks there. It sounds like they still got that reputation of being a little bigoted down there in Benton. Number three, Effingham, Illinois. Now, Effingham, when I found out that this was one of those sundown towns, like, because when I was a shorty, we used to go to Mississippi all the time. And Effingham was right on 57 South, so you gonna pass right through it. So I remember seeing it. We'd stop, eat there, all that. Apparently, in this town, the same town we used to maneuver through when we was traveling or whatever, at one point in time, black folks couldn't even leave out the bus or the train station. Them was the only two places that black folks was allowed to be in Effingham, was the bus or the train station. Then they had sit 12 there to monitor and make sure your black ass don't wander off too far, or you going to jail. You might get your ass whipped or shit. They might whack you. You never know. Elmwood Park. Now, that's another place that's in close proximity to Chicago. So it's like 15 miles west of the city, right? Young black families were assaulted, vehicles were vandalized, cribs was trashed and vandalized. There's a lot going on. These types of reports was happening all the way well into the 2000s, back from the 50s and 60s. Like, they were standing on no blacks allowed in this area. Now I know it's a little bit more diverse. Times have changed. Evergreen Park. Now, this is another one that kind of throw me for a loop, right? Because if you from the south side of the city, you know about Evergreen Park. It's right there. You know what I mean? Back in the day, the plaza was busting, and it was the place to be. But back in the 50s and 60s, it was a lot more incendiary when it came to race relations, right? Once again, it was the Italians. Now, I ain't singling nobody out. I'm just looking at the history and what was reported. It was the Italians that was working overtime trying to keep black folks from out that neighborhood, black families from out that neighborhood. And it was a lot of violence. It was like at a certain period of time, right after, say, the 50s and 60s, when black families were integrating into those communities, and it was less violence for a black family to purchase a house over there. The village, though, behind the scenes, it seemed like they were implementing tactics to instill fear in the black residents of Evergreen Park. So whereas back in the day, a sundown town might have been your ass getting hung, sundown town today might mean you're going to get pulled out your car going to get searched, your privacy going to get invaded. Same ball game, different tactics, different rules, different day to match the times. Anyway, 5 sundown towns, Illinois edition. Follow, like, subscribe. Whole lot of cash. Now you want to know.